Welcome to Private Club Radio, your weekly source for industry education, news and discussion. Broadcasting from Tampa, Florida, ladies and gentlemen, here is your host, Gabriel Aloisi.
Hey, welcome to Private Club Radio. It's wonderful to have you with me here on Monday morning as we chat with Annette Whittley of Kopplin, Kuebler Wallace. If you've been wondering what makes great service at a restaurant, at a bar, at your private club, you are going to love this interview with Annette. She does a fantastic job giving tips and advice to make your staff perform just a little bit better. And before that, we're going to be joined by Justin Baer of Member Text, and our topic today on tech trends will be efficiency. How can you be more effective and more efficient with your communications? So you're going to love that one too. Now, generally, I pre-record the interview, but I actually do the setup on Mondays live. But this Monday, I am traveling. We are going over to Hammock Beach to shoot my new television show called Let's Play Through. And I would love for you to be a part of the launch of this show. And in order to do that, what I need you to do is subscribe to my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is just my name, youtube.com/Gabriel Aloisi. And I'll also make it a very easy link in the show notes. But if you could hit the subscribe button and turn on the little notification bell, you will get updated when the show launches. It's looking like middle of October right now. And it's going to be a really fun time. I don't want to spill too many details, but I will be releasing a trailer to the show very shortly, and I'll let you know when I do. But it's going to be a little bit different, not your normal golf show, definitely a little different than Private Club Radio, but it's going to be entertaining. It's going to be about golf and travel and a lot more. So head over to YouTube, search for me, or just pop in /Gabriel Aloisi if you can spell it, or hit the link, and I would be really thrilled if you would do that. All right, without further ado, we're going to bring on Justin Baer from Member Text. Here we go.
And now, it's time for Tech Trends, presented by Member Text.
Welcome to another edition of Tech Trends, presented by Member Text. I'm joined by founder of Member Text, Justin Baer. It's great to have you back on the show, Justin. How are you?
Hey, great. Doing well. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you. I want to talk to you today a little bit about efficiency and how technology is helping people become more efficient and communicating with their customers more efficiently. It seems most startups now are all about saving time. What examples are you seeing out there, Justin?
I totally agree that. So like all the big startups, I think people in general hate waiting, right? Nobody wants to wait. And I think this big trend of startups that you have, like Instacart, where they deliver your groceries, it's not about the groceries. It's about saving me the 25 minutes or a half hour from driving to the grocery store and parking and cutting all that out. People are willing to spend money to save time, especially wealthier people, right? Especially busy executives that don't have the time. They want things sped up. Even if you can save them 10 seconds or 2 minutes, they are willing to pay for it.
Yeah, I think of when I get out of the airport, and back in the day, you used to have to sit in a taxi line, like the cab line. Then you'd go up to the guy and tell him where you were going, and then he'd quote you some ridiculous price. And now we've got Uber and Lyft. I mean, these technologies are really changing all of that, and it's all about saving time, it seems like.
Totally. I mean, and to take it, if you think about, extremely wealthy people, they're willing to pay insane, exorbitant premium for private air travel. Like, sure, are the seats great? Yeah, are they better than first class in a United or American Airlines flight? Maybe a little bit, but what it does is it saves time. They don't have to go, they can get to the airport, just when their plane's about to take off. They don't have to go through security. They're not waiting there an hour and a half ahead of time. They're paying an insane premium just for those 2 or 3 hours savings of being in the airport. So when it comes to clubs, it's always like, okay, well, how can we shave off minutes, seconds from a member's experience? Because they just so much appreciate that and love it and are willing to pay more for it. Yeah,
I have this American Express Platinum card. And I think my favorite benefit is that they pay for my TSA pre-check and global entry every year because, man, those lines in an airport, you feel like you're in Disney World sometimes.
Totally.
It's wild. I mean, in fact, we can use Disney as an example. I mean, my friends just paid a probably twice the price for the ticket just so they could skip all the lines with their easy passes and all those sorts of things. It's all about saving time.
Absolutely. And so when it comes to the club, as a general manager, how can you shave times off for members? So a couple ideas that I was thinking is, one, I think one of the somewhat of annoying thing is waiting for your bag. So whether that's, hey, I'm driving up, I'm going off campus to play golf, and I want my bag up to the front. Well, can I text ahead? Obviously you can you call ahead, but can I text ahead? I'm in a meeting. Can I do that? Can I text the valet and have my car waiting for me ahead of time? Could be an interesting one. We just set up a club recently with the ability, first of all, we enabled the landline numbers of the club. So this one club has a pavilion. It's their kind of casual dining concept, and we enable the number that goes into that restaurant. And now members can text ahead and say, hey, I'm coming in for a to-go order. And what they're saying is to-go orders are going up because it's just easy and fast. And but if they're not busy, they can take the food right up to the valet stand and boom, they hop in their car and people get to use their minimums. So a lot of neat ways I think the clubs are kind of figuring out of how they can save members time. And one of them, is texting.
Yeah, it certainly is. The other great thing about the text message is there's a lot less room for a mess up, right? So if you text your food order in, I'm driving in my car and I'm texting, hey, I would like a meatball parmesan with extra sauce and, onions, then there's no real excuse if it doesn't come the way exactly I wanted it, right? There's nothing that's lost in translation, which if you're calling somebody, you lose reception or something cuts out, or, somebody beeps in, which, kind of cuts the call out a little bit, but that just doesn't happen with text. And I think that's kind of nice.
That's a great point. I think, the other thing I think is it's even faster. So think about, let's say it's pouring rain out or it just poured and you're thinking about, hey, whether the course is open or it's car pass only or not. You have to, if you want to make a phone call, usually everyone dials and calls the pro shop.
Right.
Well, if you think about it, by the time you find the number in your phone in contacts, hit send, it rings, they say, hey, can you hold on a second?
That's the worst. I hate that. I hate that so much.
Right. Not only that, even just to say the words, we're talking 2, maybe 3 minutes. Right. When really all I care about is 5 words. Hey, and you can just text, and now we're now able to kind of text the pro shops.
Right.
Hey, is it car pass only today? It's like nobody cares about the niceties anymore. When it comes to text, you don't have to say, hi, John, it's Mr. Jones. How are you doing? None of that.
That's true. Sometimes you feel obligated for the small talk when you're on a phone conversation. You can cut all that out with text. I like that.
Exactly. So that's one of the cool new features MemberText is offering. We're able to enable a couple of the landlines. That's in addition, obviously, to our core feature. We're able to kind of blast information about disruptions and weather, and don't forget to sign up for specific events. That's kind of our blast feature. But we do have this kind of new kind of landline texting feature where we can enable the pro shop or the valet stand or the bag room or the pavilion or your restaurant. So it's kind of a neat thing we're really excited about.
That's cool. And so what makes that different from a mobile phone, I imagine, is that multiple people have access to that number or can answer from that line. Is that the way it works?
Yeah, exactly. So it's an online platform. You don't have to use a personal cell phone, which no club employee wants to use, including your membership directors. So we've got membership directors now enabling their landlines so they can text with prospects and not use their personal phone. But yeah, not only that, there's always a record of it. Like in your cell phone, you can if you delete it, it's gone. And not only that, I think I heard Verizon is now starting to delete old messages that are after, I think it's 3 months.
Oh, really? Wow.
Whatever the number is.
Huh.
Yeah, so you can never go back. So you always have a trace. You always have a record of it. And you can have multiple people sign in. So at this one club we just signed up this past week, there's actually a little iPad there, or you can use an Microsoft Surface, and they keep it right by the POS. And then it's not just one person, multiple people can see it, and it flashes green when there's a new text coming in. So it's pretty neat.
Yeah, that's totally neat. What are some other ways that you've seen clubs use the platform in a unique way lately?
The latest one was the to-go orders. And what they're saying is that the to-go order numbers are going up, which is awesome. As far as other kind of efficiency things, I know we talked about this one before. Well, not just the texting, but we talked about Slack, I think, in a previous show, where I think we're starting to really see some some general managers realize that just internally using Slack for communication. And then we're also seeing, I mean, I would say 90% of my clients are using the texting just to text their employees. I know we always talk about membership and engagement of the membership, but now you can actually text, not now, but you can obviously create groups just for different employees. And I've got GMs that say, I want a group just for my golf employees, and I want a text group just for my F&B. So that's kind of like another way to think about it, is just even your staff and your board, and saying, hey, don't forget, we've got a board meeting tonight. Being able to send that one text out, and you write it in 30 seconds, and the platform shoot it out to your 15 people, and you're done. So much better than email. We would unite kind of. That's super. Yeah, totally. I didn't even realize it could do that. Could you do like different groups of like golfers? Could you do like the men's group and then the women's group, or the young adults group, things like that? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that for sure. You can do as many groups as you want, segment them, filter them however you want. You can send a text just to the guys with this specific member category, with this age group. I mean, you can really drill down. Plus, you can create groups on the fly as well. So as an example, I know Arizona Country Club, for their member guests, they just create a group on the fly. They drop just the participants of member guests in this one text group. And then the pro can send out really fun messages, ripping on the guys and sending photos and saying, hey, don't forget, after the round, we're doing cocktails and hors d'oeuvres in the main ballroom. You could send a note afterwards. Thanks so much for playing. Here's a link to our pictures. So a lot of cool ways. That's cool. Clubs are using it. Yeah. And I think you brought up another point there where, I hear text message and I'm kind of automatically default to just literally typed words, but text messages can do way more than that nowadays. So people are using this to send flyers, pictures, all sorts of things, huh? Absolutely. Yeah. It's awesome. I mean, they're putting, you shoot a video on YouTube, you can put that in there, but yeah, photos, flyers, that's the neat stuff. That's awesome. Yeah. I could see like the golf pro getting out there once a month and doing a little, tip from the range of, how to hit a nice low draw or something like that. And then just being able to blast that out to the golf members. That would be pretty cool right then and there, like on the spot, instant, exactly. on demand. It fulfills that gratification need that we've all got nowadays. I love it. So it's all about convenience. It's all about saving time. How can you do that? You can do that with Member Text. It's a great platform. Justin, if they want to find out more or get a demo, how do they go about doing that, sir? Yeah, go to membertext.net. So membertext.net. Or, of course, you can call or text me. You can just call me directly, 410-935-1999. That's 410-935-1999. Happy to hop on a call with you, and then we can show you how some other clubs are using it. But the cool thing about text is versus email, because I know email is kind of like the main communication tool right now. Email open rates are 30-40%. Text message open rates are at 98%, and they're read within 3 minutes. So when you need to get that important information out, or the club's closed, or your disruption, or there's a weather event, texting is going to be a great way to do it. And we'd love to help you out and get you all set up, and that's kind of where we shine. That's awesome. Once again, that's membertext.net. Check it out. Justin, thanks for being on the show today. Thanks so much. Okay, appreciate it.
Join us next month on another edition of Tech Trends presented by Member Text. To learn more about Member Text, please visit membertext.net.
Awesome stuff from Justin there, and it's only going to get better. Here is Annette Whittley from Kopplin, Kuebler Wallace. Well, my next guest is Annette Whittley of Kopplin, Kuebler Wallace. She's a consultant and search executive, and she's been 17 years in the luxury hospitality services. She's from Congressional Country Club, and she's worked all over the private club industry. Annette, welcome to Private Club Radio.
Well, thank you very much for having me today.
Yeah. Why don't you give us a little bit more of your background? And I hear, of course, that nice West Virginia accent, so I'd love to hear more about that as well.
Actually, originally from England. My father's American, my mom's English. So I always say I'm half and half.
Good. I like countries. That. Yeah.
Yes. So I grew up in the UK and went to hospitality school at the University of Surrey, and joined Four Seasons Hotels and Resorts right out of school in West Palm Beach, and had the honor of a wonderful career with them. All over the United States, in opening hotels, opening Westlake Village, in Hawaii, in Vail, Colorado, in Texas, Florida, yes, California. So really enjoyed working with that company. And a few years ago, I got a call from Jeffrey Kriefel and asked him all kinds of crazy questions about private clubs because I didn't really know anything about them, and eventually flew out and interviewed and fell in love with the club and fell in love with Congressional and everything it is and the opportunity to do something really special there. So I spent the last 3 or so years with Congressional Country Club before deciding to go out on my own and focus on what my real passion is, which is learning, development, and training in food and beverage. And that's why we're here today.
I can hear the passion in your voice. I know you believe that private clubs really need more training daily. And tell us a little bit more about that, Annette.
I believe that food and beverage across all levels of the industry needs more training daily. We are in an industry that is changing so much every day and so rapidly, and our guests and members are traveling more and more and more. And I don't believe we do enough on a daily basis to focus on training our team members on food, on beverage. Yet we always are proud, and we have a lot of pride in private clubs, that we're the best in our area and the best at what we do, and the best of any industry and any sport train every single day. I remember when I was young, I used to love Martina Navratilova, and I remember she carried a tennis ball with her everywhere she went. So she was always focused on that ball and focused on what her goal was. And I take that philosophy through with what we do every day, being focused on training and being focused on the member experience and training. We can't be the best at what we do unless we train and practice every single day at it.
Yeah, people often see really successful folks out there, and they don't really think about all the time that was put in to get there to that point. And it all starts with the basics. And so let's talk about the foundational principles and some of the ways that you work with clubs on the basic stuff.
So we make assumptions that our teams know what they're doing because we all eat 3 meals a day. We all go out to eat frequently. We forget to really focus on what some of the absolute basics of what we do are. And when I talk about basics, I teach posture. How should you stand on the floor? What are acceptable postures? We shouldn't be leaning. We shouldn't be crossing our arms. Yet you see these habits all over restaurants and clubs daily. We talk about verbiage, things to say and not say, appropriate phrases. For example, we shouldn't be saying no problem. We shouldn't be saying you guys. So we talk about what's acceptable to say and what's not acceptable to say when we're in our restaurant.
No problem is like one of my huge pet peeves. I always just want to say, of course it's no problem because I just asked you to do that.
Absolutely. Yet we hear it said all the time. We focused on other fundamentals. I'm consistently amazed when I go into hotels, resorts, and clubs that team members don't know how to carry 3 plates, and they don't know the correct way to bus a table. They don't run food correctly. They don't know how to perform open-handed service. We get caught up so much in things that don't matter that we don't focus time and attention on really teaching those basics every day. So that's what I like to start with when I go into a club and work with the team, is making sure there's that solid foundation of fundamentals.
What would you say is the number one thing that really irks you, or that you see a faux pas committed in service when you walk into a club or a restaurant these days?
Leaning. When I got to Congressional, the very first thing that we focused on, and we focused on it for a good 3 to 6 months, was not leaning on things, not having your hand on the back of a chair, not leaning against a wall or a side station. And it's a really small thing, but if you're not leaning, you present differently, you're paying more attention, and somehow everything just feels a little bit better. So that's the first thing I look for, and that's one of my pet peeves.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm going to start looking for that. I think you're right, though.
Yeah.
I'm trying to like picture it in my mind. People just like hunched over a bar. That would not be very professional in any way. So I like that. What else is important for you when you're going into a new club out there? What other things are you looking for?
I'm always looking at how focused the team are on the member or the guest. Are they huddling in corners? Are they out paying attention to the tables? It's called waiting tables for a reason, because we're waiting for something to do for our guests and members, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if people are facing the members and aware and having an overall awareness to what is happening and what is going on the floor, and then also how much they're helping each other. And a key thing here that I pay attention to is how someone busses a table. Because the correct way to bus a table is all in one go, one shot. This is not a key moment in the service experience. It should happen seamlessly, and the member shouldn't be impacted or really even notice it happening. Yet so many times I see a table being bussed in 2, 3, or 4 trips because one person is bussing the entire table. So I teach teamwork. If you can't bus a table in its entirety on its own, you need someone to help you. So that's where the teamwork comes in, and how employees start to have each other's backs, and out of that, everything else gets a little bit better.
That's probably one of my big pet peeves is when dishes are sitting on the table. I really don't appreciate that. And, yeah.
Or they're on tray jacks around the dining room, like little minefields scattered throughout the room.
Yeah, exactly.
Little plate Mayan temples all over the dining room. That's another big pet peeve of mine.
You got to know the menu inside and out, I got to imagine. Why are those details so important?
So I don't think that we really focus enough on the actual food and the actual beverage. We talk a lot about the experience and the members, but tasting food and beverage every day is so important, and it really has to do with confidence. Frequently, and I'm sure anybody listening here will relate to this, when you go out to eat and you ask how a dish is, you get the response, "Oh, it's great. It's good. It's delicious. You'll love it."
Right.
But that doesn't tell us anything about the dish. So what we focus on is training on all of the details about the dish. What are the main ingredients of that dish? What are the proteins? What are the starches? What are the vegetables? What are the items that have a significant flavor? We focus on how it's cooked, because the cooking method affects everything. If something's steamed or baked or sous vide or grilled, it's going to affect the dish. And then we focus on allergies, beverage pairings, and presentation. So if something's stacked or layered or drizzled or topped with. And then we put all that together into a cohesive way to describe each dish, which then adds value to the experience. So when someone asks you about a dish, you can accurately describe it and make recommendations. And when you do that, you're teaching a passion for the product. Because if your team are tasting food every single day, and not just the special, tasting actual items from the menu, because that's the other thing you hear employees say all the time is, "I haven't tried that dish," which should never be the case. They should be completely versed in every dish on their menu. And when they do that every day, they become so much more confident. And when they become more confident, then they gain more trust. And when they gain more trust from the members start to relax a little bit more. And then they're able to guide members through a dining experience with a lot more confidence. It feels better. It's more memorable. So just starting with that product and teaching that product, I feel affects all of the experiences throughout any restaurant in any private club.
I want to put a highlighter on that statement you just made, because I think it's really important to have a passion for the product. It does come through. It's when I go out and, I get read the specials of the day and it's just a list of ingredients, that kind of puts me to sleep. Right. But if you go into the detail of like, wow, the way this is paired, or the way that the citrus flavor highlights the savory flavor of the dish, I think that when you see someone passionate about it, it's just it lifts that level of experience completely. And so I love that passion for the product. That's such a good point.
Absolutely. And the chefs put so much effort into their menus. It needs to come across in the dining room, especially if something's house-made or local or significant signature to that club. We need to be talking about it. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Let's talk about the that emotional skill set that you alluded to earlier. Why is that so important to develop with the team?
Well, the workforce that we have nowadays, evolving, and the much younger employees coming in, and I hear a lot about millennials. I guess technically I am a millennial, and we put a lot of focus on millennials, but a lot of millennials are just crying out for leadership, and they're crying out for people to show them and teach them. And a lot of studies show that millennials are far more loyal to people than they are to companies. So that emotional piece and that emotional connection from a leadership perspective, I think, is very important to mentoring and developing the next generation. But then from a service perspective, the focus on habits and empathy and just good skills as it pertains to being a team player are so important, especially now that the competition is becoming greater and greater within hospitality restaurants, food and beverage operations. For example, I always use Chick-fil-A, but you go into Chick-fil-A regularly and they're going to use your name and they're going to say my pleasure, and they're going to try and go above and beyond. So our competition now are fast food restaurants. It's no longer good enough to just use the name and say my pleasure. So we have to spend time and attention focusing on developing our team and developing their awareness, their self-awareness, their ability to empathize with members, to put themselves in a member's place and look for ways to make their day better. And then lastly, I always focus back in on self-esteem. And this is as it relates to team members and members. Because if you can go out and make someone feel better about themselves, then you've got them. They'll be loyal to you no matter what happens. So how are we doing that with each other? And then how are we doing that for our members? And we have put a lot of emphasis in the past about selecting for these skills, but I don't think we spend enough time now developing and training for these skills, because that's going to be the differentiating factor in how well we do moving forward. Because once you have those fundamentals in place and the team are not leaning and they know their product, the differentiator now is that emotional piece and how we really go above and beyond to take care of our members.
Yep, you're right. You got to continually elevate and raise the game. I've got a friend who owns a number of McDonald's, actually, and they started using people's names at McDonald's for their orders and things like that. And you're right. You just got to keep innovating. You can't ever really stand pat in today's world, or else you're just going to get left behind. You're also passionate about systems, and why do you think systems are so important?
Because I can come in and train any team for a week or two and then leave, and what's happened after that. So I really like to spend time with the teams that I train and looking at how do we keep this going? How does this become part of what you do so that I come in and refresh or drive things forward rather than have to start from scratch every time I visit a club? So systems are our daily pre-shift briefings. How are they structured? Are we talking about food every day? Are we tasting beverage every day? Are we talking about service standards every day, recognition, team, and all of that good stuff? And how is that structured? And when does that pre-shift happen and who attends it? And then I talk about weekly quizzes, because if we're not keeping score, then how do we know when we're winning? We talk about standards tests, making sure that we are testing our employees in role playing, and then the member feedback as well. How are we keeping track of a culture of feedback and making that culture of feedback something that is positive and not negative? So self-reporting things when they're good and when they're bad. So what I mean by that is really recognizing when things go well and holding that up, but when things don't go so well, being open and honest and talking about that too.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned I worked for Four Seasons for many years. I still work with them. I help open new hotels, and I go in and I train Four Seasons employees on their own standards. And they have a system called a glitch database. And the sin is not reporting something that went wrong. So everybody reports, I messed up, I made a mistake. And if you make a mistake, then it's how you recover from it. And when you have that culture that you're not in trouble if you make a mistake, then more mistakes get reported, and then we can be better and better at what we do.
Wow.
So building systems like that within clubs is so important, because then we know how we're improving and if we're improving and how much we've improved.
I think that that's important outside the dining room as well. I'd love to see clubs adopt that culture throughout the different areas of the operation. That's such a good point. I don't think I've ever heard anyone talk about that. That's cool.
Yeah, we implemented it at Congressional. We called it the MES. So if you had a mess, it was the member experience system.
Yep.
And we implemented it at Congressional. It took a while to get people to feel like they weren't going to get in trouble, but
right.
After a while, you realize that you're only going to be in trouble if you don't say something. And then also, once you've had a problem with someone, you can fix it. And actually, that's kind of a gift, because oftentimes the members or guests that we have a problem with, if we can recover them and we're great at recovery, then that's a relationship that you've just started and things have got better.
Yeah. Absolutely. I have another question for you, Annette. Obviously, a lot of times people think of a service job as sort of a transient position, and that's the opposite of what we want in the private club industry. It's important to really have people that stick around. What are some of the ways you'd suggest that, what's one easy way that a club can get their folks to stay longer?
In my opinion, and in my experience, that's your culture. You have to create an environment where your team are learning and growing every single day and they feel involved, and there's open flow of communication, there's regular feedback. It's culture.
Yeah.
It's really culture and relationships, because you can have all the most incredible systems and training in place, but without the culture is the intangible. It's what you can't see, it's what you can't photograph, but it's really why people stay. The relationships and the culture.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. In fact, I've been giving a presentation, and I'm giving it next week to the entrepreneur organization here locally in Tampa, and it's about attracting millennials in the workforce and how do you retain employees. And that's exactly the point. One of the points I make is they really need to buy into the core values, the mission, the vision of the company. And once you get that buy-in, then the younger folks will stick around. But like you said, they don't want to really interact with some faceless organization. It needs to be in a personal way as well. And so that's such a great point.
Absolutely.
How did Kopplin, Kuebler, and Wallace snag you, by the way?
One of the key things I've learned this year is sometimes you have to say no. and when I left Congressional, which was probably one of the greatest experiences of my career, I knew that I wanted to work with teams doing this training and developing. So I started my own business, and I have a really long-lasting friendship with a lady who does the training with Four Seasons. So she is getting busy, so she needed another person to go in and do the Four Seasons trainings. So I was really just doing that and picking up a few different clubs here and there in my local area. And Kurt called me a couple times about a couple job openings in the area for F&B directors, or I think there was an AGM one. And I said, no, Kurt, I'm doing my own thing. I'm not interested. I'm doing my own thing. He picked up the phone and he said, well, what are you doing? So I told him, and he said, well, we should get together with Tom and talk about what you're doing. So we all met and got together, and they said, well, how about you do this with Kopplin, Kuebler, and Wallace? And I just couldn't be more honored to be a part of that group. And they're just such incredibly passionate, fun people. And they're going to push me to be better than I could ever have been on my own. And I'm really excited about that.
It sounds like a perfect partnership. I mean, they're such forward-thinking company. It's no wonder that they got someone as talented as yourself. How do folks reach out to you, or if they're interested in having you come and do some of these trainings, how do they go about doing that, Annette?
They can reach out to me via email, which is annette@kknw.com, or through the website, through Kopplin and Wallace's website as well.
That's fantastic. One last question for you before I let you go. What is the best dining experience that you've ever had?
The best dining experience that I've ever had.
Outside the Four Seasons, because obviously you're going to be partial to that one.
I would say it was Alinea, which is actually a 3 Michelin star restaurant in Chicago. And the reason I picked that is because I feel we get so caught up with the concept of fine dining. And I hear everyone say, my fine dining restaurant is here. And it's all white tablecloths that's not often ironed, by the way. Mm-hmm. And served from the left cliff, it's all super formal white shirts and bow ties. And we have this image of fine dining that we hang on to, which doesn't exist anymore. And the reason I choose Alinea is because Alinea is new fine dining. When you walk in the restaurant, it's completely unlike anything you've had before. There's no tablecloth to be seen. They use open-handed service. Every course had different style of silverware. There were courses served in my hand. There were courses you ate with your hands. It was completely unexpected, but it challenged the status quo. It challenged what you would initially think of fine dining being, and it was every bit as good as any meal I'd ever had before.
That's awesome. It's always the best when it's unexpected, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
That's so cool.
Absolutely.
That's so awesome. And that I enjoyed this conversation immensely, and I hope a lot of folks will reach out to you soon to have them come work with you at their club. I know a couple clubs here locally that I would definitely like to recommend to you because it's a revolving door of wait staff. But no, I really enjoyed the chat, and hope to have you back here again on Private Club Radio again.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Solid gold right there from Justin and Annette on this week's episode. If you loved it, I wish you would share it. Share it with a colleague, share it with a friend at the club, share it with your members. I'll catch you back here next week on Private Club Radio, and until then, here's to your membership success.
Private Club Radio is brought to you by Concert Golf Partners, helping to preserve and enhance private golf and country clubs. Concert Golf has the capital, expertise, and private club hospitality experience to help upscale private clubs achieving long-term success and membership growth. For 25 years, Concert Golf has allowed private club members to focus on simply enjoying their club. Visit concertgolfpartners.com to learn more about the recapitalization process.